That light on your dash isn't telling you a tire is low. On a car past its 8th birthday, it's usually telling you a battery died, sealed inside your wheel where nobody can reach it. Has that light been on since the first cold morning last fall? Did you air up all 4 tires, watch it go out for a day, then find it staring back at you on the way to the grocery store? Here's the question nobody behind the service counter is going to ask you. When you first turn the key, does that light flash for about a minute before it settles into a steady glow? That flash is the difference between a $5 problem and a $400 one. I've been under cars for more than 20 years, and I've broken down more wheels with dead pressure sensors inside them than I could count in an afternoon. The quote lands in the same place almost every time, and most of what you're paying for isn't broken yet. By the time this video is over, you'll be able to read that light in the first 90 seconds of a cold start and know which sensor actually failed. That matters tomorrow morning in your own driveway, because the second that light goes solid, the clock on the other 3 is already running. Let me tell you what's actually bolted inside your wheel, because almost nobody has ever seen one. Every car built for the American market from the 2008 model year forward has a tire pressure monitoring system, and the phase-in started 2 years before that. Most of them do it the direct way, with a small radio transmitter clamped to the inside of the wheel at the base of the valve stem. That transmitter runs on a lithium coin cell about the size of an aspirin. The battery is not a service item. It's potted into a sealed housing with no door, no clip, and no way in. It also never truly shuts off. Your car can sit in the garage from November to April, and that sensor is still waking up, still checking, still broadcasting to the receiver. 7 years is the average before it goes quiet. 5 is early. Nobody at the dealership mentioned that when you signed the paperwork. You bought a vehicle that came with 4 disposable electronic parts you never knew you owned, each one carrying a battery that was already burning down on the lot. Here's the part that costs people real money. That warning light has 2 completely different jobs, and the car maker gave both of them the same bulb. When the light comes on solid and stays solid, the system is telling you a tire is genuinely low on air. That's the job everybody knows about. When the light flashes for roughly 60 to 90 seconds after startup and then goes solid, it's telling you something entirely different. It's reporting that the system itself is broken, that it's lost contact with a sensor and no longer knows what the pressure in that wheel is. Same lamp, same yellow color. 2 problems with a 20 to 1 difference in cost. The manufacturers didn't hide that distinction to be clever. They did it because a second telltale on the cluster costs money, and 1 bulb doing 2 jobs was the cheaper way to satisfy the regulation. Here's what most drivers never realize about what happens next. You take a flashing then solid light into a shop, describe it as "my tire light is on," and the estimate comes back for all 4 sensors plus mounting, balancing, and a relearn procedure, right around $400 on a car that might only be worth $4,000. One of those 4 sensors is dead. The other 3, on most vehicles I see, still have a year or 2 of life in them. Tomorrow morning, before you back out of the driveway, watch that light for the first 90 seconds after you turn the key. Don't put the car in gear. Just sit there and watch whether it flashes first or comes up solid. If it flashes, no amount of air in your tires is going to turn it off, and any shop that tells you otherwise is guessing or selling. There's one more thing about that little transmitter that turns a bad situation into an expensive one, and it has nothing to do with the battery at all. It has to do with the metal stem the sensor is attached to, and what happens to that metal after a few winters of road salt. Understanding what the light is saying is one thing. What I pull out of these wheels after nobody has touched them for 6 or 7 years is something else entirely, and it's the part that turns a sensor bill into a tow bill. The sensor bolted inside your wheel is aluminum, the cap you screw onto the end of it. If it came from a parts store bargain bin or off an old set of wheels, is very often chrome-plated steel. 2 different metals, threaded together, sitting in road salt spray for 6 months a year. That's a battery, not the kind that powers anything, the kind that eats itself. The aluminum gives up material to the steel, and it does it slowly enough that you never notice until the day it matters. What it leaves behind is a chalky white powder packed into the threads, sometimes a crust that's gone slightly green at the base of the stem. The valve core seizes solid inside that corrosion. You go to add air, the core won't seat back down, and now the tire is leaking past the very thing that's supposed to hold pressure in. That's the good outcome. The bad one is that the stem snaps off at the nut. It usually happens when somebody grabs it with a pair of pliers to break a stuck cap loose, and the whole assembly shears clean at the corroded section. When an aluminum stem lets go, the tire doesn't develop a slow leak overnight. It empties in seconds. I've pulled apart hundreds of these wheels on trucks and cars that came out of salt country, and the pattern doesn't vary much. Past the 7-year mark, the stems that were left alone the whole time come out looking like they were buried in the ground. A 2011 F-150 came in on a flatbed with the left rear flat on the rim, and the stem was lying loose inside the tire when we broke it down. The toe and the new sensor assembly ran the owner $185, and every dollar of that was preventable with a $2 rubber cap and a service kit at the last tire change. The sensors themselves tell the same story from the other direction. On a 2014 Mazda 6, I dismounted a few winters back. The housing had gone so brittle that it came apart in two pieces the moment the bead broke over it. There's a second kind of damage here, and it's quieter. While that light sits solid on your dash because one sensor went dead, the system is no longer watching the other three tires at all. You've been driving without the warning you're legally supposed to have, and there's no way to tell from the driver's seat that you're doing it. Here's how far gone a tire has to be before that system was ever designed to speak up. The federal standard the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration wrote for these systems requires the light to come on when a tire falls 25% or more below the pressure the manufacturer put on your door sticker. 25%, not 5, not 10. If your door jamb says 35 pounds, that light isn't obligated to say a single word until you're down around 26. You have been driving on a badly soft tire for a long while before the dash ever admits it. That's the system working correctly. That's the best case. Understand what that means for the man with a dead sensor and a light that's been on since last October. He isn't missing a small warning. He's missing the only warning the car was ever going to give him, at the exact point where an underinflated tire starts building the heat that takes it apart at highway speed. Go out to your car tonight and unscrew one valve cap. Look at the threads under it and look at the inside of the cap. White powder, dark staining, or a cap that fights you on the way off tells you everything about what the other three look like. Quick reminder here. If this is saving you money, hit that subscribe button. It helps us keep making videos like this. While you're standing at that tire, open the driver's door and read the yellow and white sticker on the jamb. That number is the one your car was engineered around, not the bigger number molded into the tire sidewall, which is a maximum rating and never a recommendation. There's a reason I'm walking you through all of this before I get anywhere near a repair estimate. The $400 quote isn't a lie exactly. It's what you get charged when you walk in describing a symptom instead of a fault, and the shop prices the whole system because nobody has told them which part of it failed. Walk in knowing which sensor is dead and knowing whether you're dealing with a battery at the end of its life or a stem the salt ate, and that same visit looks nothing alike on paper. That's what the wrong approach costs. Here's what the right one looks like, and notice that most of it happens before you ever hand anyone your keys. Start with the 90-second test, because it decides everything that follows. Flashing first, then solid, means the system lost a sensor. Solid from the moment you turn the key means a tire is actually low, and air will fix it. If it's flashing, the next step costs almost nothing. Any tire shop with a handheld sensor tool can stand beside each wheel, trigger the sensors one at a time, and tell you in about 3 minutes which one stopped answering. Most shops do that for free, and the ones that charge for it are asking $20 to $40. Either way, you walk out knowing the specific corner of the car that failed instead of guessing at 4 of them. Then you decide how many to replace, and this is where the money is won or lost. If your car is 8 years old or less, replace only the dead one. The other 3 still have life in them, and there's no mechanical reason to throw away working parts. If every sensor is original and the car is past 10 years and you're already buying tires, that's the one time replacing all 4 makes sense. The wheels are coming off anyway, so you pay the mounting and balancing labor once instead of 4 separate times over the next 2 years. Ask for aftermarket programmable sensors. They run $30 to $60 a piece and come from the same handful of manufacturers that supply the car makers, while the factory part with the badge on the box runs $80 to $140 for identical function. Ask for a new service kit on every wheel that comes off the rim every single time. That's the rubber grommet, the nut, the valve core, and the cap, and it costs $5 to $12 a wheel. Tell them to torque the stem nut to specification rather than snugging it by feel. These are inch-pound fasteners, and a technician in a hurry with an impact driver cracks the sensor body on installation, which is a failure that shows up as a flashing light 6 weeks later. Throw away every metal valve cap you own and put plastic ones on. That single move ends the corrosion problem permanently for about $2 a set. One thing worth checking before you spend anything at all. A handful of vehicles never had sensors in the wheels to begin with, and instead watch wheel speed through the anti-lock brake system to spot a soft tire. If yours is one of those, there's no battery, no sensor, and nothing to buy. The light clears with a reset button or a menu option after you set the pressures correctly, And any shop that quotes you sensors for that car is quoting you for parts your vehicle doesn't have. Drop a comment below. How long has that light been on in your car? And did anyone ever tell you what it was actually reporting? Here's what the difference looks like on paper. A retired school bus driver near Spokane brought in a 2013 Honda CR-V last winter with the light on since the previous fall. He'd already been to a dealer and had a written quote for $438 covering 4 sensors, mounting, balancing, and programming. One sensor was dead. The right front, 11 years old, battery gone exactly on schedule. He paid $112 out the door for the sensor, the service kit, the mount and balance, and the relearn. He drove home with a dark dash and 3 sensors still doing their job. That's the whole gap. Same car, same symptom, same afternoon, and the only variable was walking in knowing which question to ask. The other side of this ledger is the one nobody quotes you. A tire run 25% low builds heat in the sidewall every mile it turns, and heat is what separates the belts from the rubber. When that happens at highway speed on the front of a vehicle, you are not buying a tire, you are trying to keep it out of the ditch. A single replacement tire for a common truck or crossover runs $180 to $260, and that assumes the failure didn't take a fender liner with it. Next time you're checking pressures, do it in the morning before you've driven anywhere. Tires read 4 or 5 pounds higher once they're hot, and topping them off warm leaves you soft the following morning. Pressure drops roughly a pound for every 10 degrees the temperature falls, which is why that light finds so many people the week the weather turns. You bought that car to keep, and it can keep going a long time yet. The parts that fail on a 15-year-old vehicle are increasingly not mechanical at all, and the shops charging the most are the ones counting on you not knowing the difference. That light was never a $400 problem. It was a 3-minute diagnosis somebody hoped you'd skip. If you want to know which dashboard warnings you can safely drive on and which ones mean stop the car right now, click the video on the left. I'll see you there.